and welcome to another ASMR video brought to you by Brutus ASMR. So this is going to be another soft-spoken reading from the book, Why is the Universe So Big? If you'd like to pick up the book, it's available on Amazon in the link below. But otherwise, just relax and get ready to listen to chapter 3. If you like to start at the beginning of the book, you can find the other bedtime readings in my videos and uploads. So I like to do a couple. Alrighty. Chapter 3. The Ego and Satan. The ego is a fascinating monster. Alanis Morissette. Hence the red lights. I have already introduced the idea that the universe is large to the point of being absurd. But what may be even more absurd is that we humans, the children of this universe and bestowed with the miracle of consciousness, act so incredibly small. And our behavior is a direct result of equating our lives and life itself with our earthly identities. Because most of us are so focused on our names, our jobs, our personalities, our accomplishments, or lack thereof, we are unconscious slaves to our egos. Maybe this is the best way to describe original sin. It's our multi-generational perpetuation of an egocentric prison that prevents us from reaching our divine potential and entering heaven. For the purposes of this book, I define the ego as the need for someone linked to a physical body and name to be held in high esteem, to be respected, or to be blameless. How good does it make me feel to hear someone say that I'm a nice guy, handsome, or smart? Conversely, how painful is it for me to be criticized or rejected? For these judgments to have any effect, I must attach importance to my identity and being separate from those around me. It turns out that this very small state of being is the polar opposite of the expansive universe, a universe that exists because of our consciousness, needed to be born, and needs to evolve. Given our genesis, why on earth would we volunteer to be imprisoned by our egos, a very small and claustrophobic place? I believe it's because we think that this state of being is normal. We haven't conceived of an alternative way of being, and we allow our egos to wield tremendous power. There's an old saying that goes like this: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. We all understand the point, but the truth is that if you have an active ego, words can be painful, often leading to very negative behavior or even tragic outcomes. Basic survival instincts aside, the ego is the reason we fear and the reason we hate. When our egos are in charge, we must judge others in order to defend our points of view, behavior, and reputation. A dominant ego can lead to aggressive behavior, but can also result in a person constantly behaving like a victim. Victims complain that factors outside of their control or simply other people are responsible for unhappiness or failure to succeed. And these unfortunate souls typically have no idea that the ego is in control, forcing them to take on the victim identity. Sadly, the Sadly, the person in this state of mind rarely realizes that playing the victim makes them powerless to solve their problems, because they have ceded power to the perpetrators. The ego has many tentacles. It attaches itself to our name, appearance, behavior, ideologies, and the religions we choose, and other things we may not have identified. The ego is difficult to eradicate because it's not an encapsulated tumor that can be surgically removed. It hides. And just when we think we have it under control, it rears its ugly head in a different area of our lives. If you need to believe in Satan, I nominate the ego. It's incredibly deceptive and the chief advocate for separateness and judging others. But this Satan is not the dark angel, the external enemy we were taught to fear in Sunday school. This devil is all ours, and believe it or not, we decide whether it thrives or dies. The immensity of the universe suggests we have great potential, but the ego demands self-focus, pulling us down and making us very small. Jesus of Nazareth told us that we must lose our life to gain our life. Was Jesus referring to our physical death, or letting go of our ego-dominated identities that manifest our own personal hells and hell on earth? What is fascinating is that the destructive force has no power of its own. We are the host, allowing our egos to exercise tremendous control over our lives and society. And this influence is very dangerous, because we are typically unaware of its countless negative effects. The intense grip of our identities and the ego can be illustrated with a simple mental exercise. What if after we die we are still conscious, but we lose all memory of who we were and what we did in our lives? What if we no longer have our names? I think many people who believe in the afterlife assume that when we die, we take our identity and our memories with us. How disturbing is it to think about the prospect of losing our earthly identity? The fact that this would be devastating to most people tells us something about the level of attachment we have to countless things we make up in our lives. And this attachment comes with a very high price. How peaceful would it be if we could live entirely free of what happened yesterday, what will happen tomorrow, and what other people think of us? Arguably, our identities, our memories, and our possessions are how we define our lives. No wonder we fear dying. We're afraid of losing who we think we are, and maybe all of the things we did in our lives that we believe deserve praise. And it certainly doesn't help that many of us believe that our identities are what guarantee personal salvation or justice in the afterlife. My sister remembers being told we earn gold bricks in heaven because of our earthly behavior, and I've heard pastors explain that our crowns in heaven will be adorned based on our righteousness. Unfortunately, these ideas reinforce that our identities are important, therefore providing sustenance for the ego. What if we define life differently? What if we simply thought of life as being fully conscious in the present moment? Is this the real heaven? And is our attachment to our identities the reason we cannot enter? My own experience provides evidence supporting the tenacious power of the ego. I am extremely aware of my ego and diligently try to make sure it is not affecting my emotional state and my behavior. Yet I am regularly reminded of its persistence and power when I act defensively after being criticized, or when I am feeling insecure about the future. Just imagine the effect on people who are in no way witnessing or attempting to regulate their egos. The impacts of the unbridled egos are ubiquitous, reaching every corner of society. Obvious examples are politics, reality television, and conflicts over religious beliefs. Because the ego is obsessed with our identities, which means being focused on what we have done in the past and what we should do in the future, it is the enemy of embracing the only aspect of our lives that is real, the present moment. In this respect, the ego fuels the drama that arises from reliving past pain or worrying about the future. This does not mean that we should put our heads in the sand and stop learning from our experiences. Preventing an alcoholic from driving an automobile is a logistic response to a practical problem. And being able to forgive a person for their crimes does not mean we let dangerous people roam the streets. However, branding an alcoholic as evil or a lesser human being or doing the same to a homeless person or a criminal is wrong and comes from the ego. When we judge others, we are acting very small, arguably denying the immense and expansive nature of our creation and destiny. In fact, when viewed from a spiritual perspective, our egos are a prison that is worse than any penitentiary. Denzel Washington's character in the movie Flight illustrates this point very clearly. While in prison, after being convicted of piloting his plane while drunk and high on cocaine, he admits to his son that he feels freer than any other time in his adult life, free of his addictions and free of the ego that fueled these addictions. This from a man who is physically locked up. Appreciating the size of the universe, our true potential, and the negative power of the ego is essential to our spiritual growth. We must understand that being dominated by our egos is a contracted and unaware state, while the state of being that is heaven is egoless and expansive. Expanding our perspective is not only our destiny, it allows us to see the people, ideas, and institutions in our society in a new light. But we still have a significant challenge. It's that our ego and the societal norms it perpetuates creates a disguise, one that by its nature hides our divine potential. So that was chapter 3 of Why is the Universe So Big? That's a hard one to get through. I promise the others are more happy and uplifting. I don't know if that's the right word, but I hope that you're enjoying this bedtime reading series. Let me know if you want me to continue with the book. There's definitely cool stuff in the later chapters, and I hope that you all have wonderful dreams. And I'll see you guys later.